to get to know. Look at that. We've got that perfect recording. So good. So first of all, Odetta was so kind to mention the fact my background was credit and credit and credit and credit and credit. My father started the credit department in Macy's in 1972. So I was bred, born, and everything about my life from 1972 on was pretty much credit based. And from the mortgage side, from as a credit collector, which was a horrible job. If you're ever looking for a terrible job, become a credit collector. It's the worst thing you can ever find. Maybe not the worst, but it's pretty bad. But the point is that I when I went into WFG and worked with clients that were going through issues with credit issues, I work with Debt America and love to work with clients, but I found that there was one other area that was getting missed an awful lot, and that was estate planning. You all talk about the fact that you've got to make sure that you've got insurance and financial protection with regard to the beginning and the basis of what you do with your clients. The second thing you need to do is make sure you've got your debt managed, and that's where Debt America, by the way, came in. There's also emergency funds and saving for the future, and then you have a thing called asset transfer. Some people don't even know what asset transfer is, which is basically estate planning. Some people are afraid to ask about it because it gets a little bit confusing. So we're going to go through a training today that's going to cover not the technical parts of it. I want to have you understand why it is so important to understand why you should be talking about this. There is cash that's on the table from you as an agent that's being missed on a regular basis across the country. I like to try to avoid that from happening. There are clients that are not being serviced 100% because they're being missed as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is throw up on my screen, and I'll push 3 times. There we go. Third time's the charm. LSPN Direct, that's going to be the website. Okay, first note to take, make sure that you don't miss LSPN Direct. As a matter of fact, Odetta, if you feel like it, if you're not writing notes, then if you want to throw them in the chat, and then if I say anything that seems like, wow, that sounds valuable. So first thing is LSPN is going to be located at lspndirect.com. And if you hadn't noticed already that I put a note in, there is a promotional thing going on right now. 15 referrals between January 1 and April 30th will get you a trip, or get you entered into a trip for 2 over to Machu Picchu, which is going to be fantastic. Moreover, I got a phenomenal training that's going to be coming up in May that's got nothing to do with LSPN. It's got everything to do with prospecting and building out your business, and we'll talk about that later on. So lspndirect.com. Second thing we want to talk about is the only slide that I kept when I took over from LSPN, left Debt America. I was given this big old long, boring, just horrible presentation because it just talked all kinds of details. And I said, you know what, we can talk about that. What I want to talk about, though, is this one phrase down at the bottom: comprehensive financial planning. You talk to clients about everything that you do, but so often that last piece gets missed, which is estate planning. And frankly, it's one of the most important pieces that you have. In fact, I was at Wells Fargo. I stepped into a bank. I realized today I was in the bank for the first time probably in 14 years today. I had not, I just, because you do online banking and everything, I have a conversation and they asked me what I did. I said, I work with LSPN. First off, I became a business partner now with them, and they're going to be referring clients to us because they said, you know, we have clients that come in after a death in the family and they go through just the worst times trying to unravel what goes on. They have life insurance, but they don't have an estate plan put in place. So it makes it very, very difficult to get that money back out of the bank and to sort things out. So just in that very simple conversation, I've already, if I were an agent with WFG, I would already have an opportunity to sit with that person and specifically, and we've already got referrals coming in from that office that was right down the street. I should go to the bank more often. But the things I want to talk about today are some numbers that you should be aware of, because it's going to kind of bring you to light as far as why you want to be aware of this. First of all, 10% of your estate can be eaten up in probate costs. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on probate, but there are people that, if I ask for a raise of hands, most people get embarrassed by admitting it, but they don't know exactly what probate is. So here's the crash course lesson for you, because believe it or not, you'd be surprised how many people don't know. Probate's when someone dies. The state picks up and gathers up everything that belonged to that person, their cash, their estates, their events, their home, their everything that they have. And they put it all, and they grab it all together, and then they put out a public notice and they say, this person passed away. Does anybody want to stake claim to this? Creditors come out of the woodworks all the time. In addition to credit, you've got the tax board is going to come. There are a collection of different areas that they're going to have different people asking for their money. And frankly, every time that somebody asks a question, you know what, this person promised that they were going to do this for me. This person owed me money. This person promised me that they were going to make charity donation if they pass away. All those things, each time a question comes up, you've got a response that has to come back through the state. And if you don't, nobody's ever told you about it, the state takes a long time to process things. And it doesn't matter what state, the government in general just moves at a slow motion pace. And, if you've lost a loved one and you're trying to contend with that, and that mortgage is tied up, so you can't pay the mortgage and you can't keep things up, it gets really rough. I'm going to give you one quick example as far as where they can go really wrong. And that's the performer Prince. Prince had no estate plan put in place. When he passed away, there were people that were creditors that said, I want my money. Then there were promoters that said there was supposed to be a concert this coming year, and so he's not going to be there. So I think we should be able to get the money from the estate. There were people that came out, as I said, he said that if he ever died, he was going to give money to my charity. That happened. Somebody just brought to me, I just did a meeting yesterday. There was a person that grew up in the hometown where Prince did. And she said, you know what, he was a shy man, wanted nothing to do with anybody. And now they're using his music to sell credit cards. And he said, absolutely never would have happened. But if there was estate plans put in place, that would have been prevented. It took 6 years to get everything sorted out. Millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars got washed away because they had to have legal fees taken care of. So this is what can happen with probate. Look it up if you want to know a little bit more. The second thing that we try to use estate planning for is to prevent from having families fall apart. And now we got 30 people online. I would put money on it if we sat everybody down and I asked everybody to open up honestly. I promise you there would be at least a few people that would say, oh my gosh, you know what? After my wife's father died, the whole family fell apart, because they got all into a big old argument because there was this beautiful little armoire, or there was a desk that was a family keepsake, and everybody started battling over just that one little thing. And then all of a sudden the rest of the family falls apart, let alone talking about the money. Aretha Franklin, for example, is another one. She had one child that was a special needs child. Everybody else was doing fine. She had an awful lot of money in her estate. She said that she wanted to have a great deal of her estate to go to that one disabled child. And she never had an estate plan put in place. She had 3 pieces of paper. All 3 of them said, I want to take care of this one child only. And then guess what? The rest of the family fought it in court, had all 3 pieces of paper taken out and thrown away in order for them to take money away from that person. It causes all kinds of conflict. If you can have something in place to prevent that, then why not do it? And then we come to the fact that there are people like myself that's over 50. I'm not saying how far over 50, but I'm over 50. Yeah, I'm over 55 too. So it's like there are more than half people in the country right now that are saying that it's going to be irresponsible to not have some sort of estate plan put in place. So what I'm telling you with that is that there's half the people in the world already understand that they should have something. So if you bring it up and have a conversation, you're going to be able to talk to them and bring them to LSPN or bring them to an attorney or do whatever you need, but you need to bring that service to the client. And if you don't bring it up, somebody else is going to do it for you. And if they do it, they're going to end up having that revenue that's going to be generated. They're going to service that client that you could have done, which brings us to the next one, which is almost 70% of the people in the country have nothing at all in place. They don't have a will, they don't have an estate plan, they don't have a living trust, they haven't got anything sorted out. There's nothing at all that's put in place. What that tells me on 2 sides, because I do a lot of, I used to be just a crazy nerd and looked at numbers like crazy and did evaluations on surveys and such. And one of the things that I determined from that is that means that 70% of the people that are sitting across the table from you, 70% of the people sitting across the table have nothing in place and they need help. And all you have to do is talk about it. What you got to do is bring it up, because we already know half of them already acknowledge that they need to have something. 70% don't. And all you have to do is have that conversation. But you want to know something? Almost 2/3 have never had a conversation with their financial planner. In other words, almost 2/3 of the people that have sit down and had conversations with I've had conversations about life insurance, about savings, about mutual funds, about what's going to happen in the future, about living death benefit riders, all these things. But too many people don't have any discussions at all about estate planning. And this is such a big mistake, because first of all, you're doing a disservice to the client. Secondly, you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you're not earning that revenue that you should be earning, because you've already gained their trust. They already believe in you. So if you start talking to them about estate planning, they're ready to listen. And here's a little life lesson for you. If you start talking to me about life insurance, I start thinking about death. I hate to say it. That's what everybody does. Life insurance has got to do with death as well as living. But if I'm thinking about that, that gets me thinking again about, what the heck is that thing called an estate plan? And I don't know what it is. I know there's a living trust, and I know that my uncle's got one, but I don't know if I'm supposed to have one. And they're afraid because I'm 50 plus, and I'm just embarrassed because I figure I should know already what that is. So I don't want to admit that I don't want to. So I'm not asking you, and you're on the other side of the table, not offering it. So now I'm going to tell you two things that people have told me again and again and again at World Financial Group, and said again and again why they don't talk about it. One is, I just gave them a life insurance policy. They're paying a new premium. They have extra cash going out of their pocket. I'm afraid to ask. That was the first one. They're afraid to ask. I got to tell you, if you're afraid to ask, it tells me, first of all, you haven't done a needs analysis that's been thorough enough to know what their cash flow is. Because if you are afraid to ask, you don't know whether or not they have that money or not. Secondly, if you're making the presumption that they don't have that money, you shouldn't, because I might have cash stuck away somewhere. And if you tell me about something that I think is important enough, I'll pull out the mattress and pull the extra emergency fund out. And I'll say, you know what? I need this. That's the first one. The second one is even sadder. And I've been told this again and again. When I went to World Financial to start with, I learned a lot of things. I learned about insurance and how it worked, and the premium, and the cash values, and the death benefit riders, and the insurance, and this, and how to get licensed, and how to recruit, and how to build a team. But and then I brought this all to my clients, and one of the things they told me was important was estate planning. But I started talking to clients, and I talked about estate planning, and then all of a sudden something backfired on me, because after I had that conversation, they would come back and ask me questions about it. They say, okay, well, if estate planning is really important, what do you know about it? And now I'm embarrassed because I don't know it. So I just stopped talking about it. And this happens, this answer is across the country, that this is what the answer is. So I'm going to let you in on something. I'm going to show you a trick. I'm going to show you how you can talk about estate planning without talking about estate planning. In other words, you don't need to know the details. You just need to get me interested. You know, if all you need to do is get me that appetite, give me the reason why I want to move forward. And then once you start coming to me to say, okay, get me more information, I am going to take you and say, great, let me put you in touch with my attorney. All right. And this is going to be the way that it is. It's going to be very simple. I'm going to give you a one rule to this page. And that is, you cannot use more than two. And I would even suggest you only use one bullet point on this page per client. Okay, it doesn't mean you only have 5 clients, you use all those, and then now you can't use any more. It means you can overuse them, but you can't use 3 of the bullet points on one client. You're going to see why as we go along. So Odetta, you and I sat down, we had a conversation about life insurance. We're delivering the policy. We're already having that discussion. We already talked about all the important things in life. So I have a last question for you. Do you have a current plan in place for something if something happens to you or your spouse? And you know what Odetta's going to do? She's going to look at me and she's going to say, well, you just talked to me about how important life insurance was. Isn't that the plan? I got to let you in on something. Life insurance is not the plan. It's just the cash that funds the plan. The plan is the thing that you're going to say that this is how I'm going to get to the end of my life. This is how I'm going to be secure with the rest of my life, and how I can pass my resources on to my next generation. When somebody dies, there's chaos everywhere. There's emotional chaos. There is the chaos that has from family members coming over and trying to show you all this sympathy. There's the chaos of trying to figure out what you're going to do with final resting place and all that. All these things are going on. And then in the midst of all of this, you're trying to figure out what you have to do. You have to have something laid out to say, this is the direction we're going to go. That's what the plan is. If you don't have it, it can be really dangerous. And by the way, death benefit checks, look at the statistics, about 5 to 6 years, and most of them are gone. Even big checks. And the reason for it is, Odetta, my life, I'm used to making 140,000. I'm making used to 80,000, whatever that dollar figure is. That's my lifestyle. That's what I'm used to. Now there's a death benefit check that comes to me. It's 500,000. It's 250,000. It's $1 million, whatever it is. But I'm so used to making what I'm making that this is just extra cash that I start spending out, and it disappears in an instant. And if you think of it, really odd, and the sad thing is, it's exactly what happens with lottery winners. People come to the door and say, oh, Odetta, you know what? I know you get that extra cash, and I'm so sorry about your loss, but I was wondering, I got an idea for a business, and I think that we can make a lot of money. And then now it's like, or you get that one, it's like, oh, I know you're going through a lot of loss, but you know what? The rest of the family has got some challenges too. Can you help us out? And all of a sudden that money, and people come out of the woodwork. So that's going to be the first one. Second one is going to be, who's going to be the legal guardian for your children. And this is really important too, because you have to understand, if this is not written down immediately, if it's not written down, and unless you have a spouse that's with you and a surviving spouse, there is no one except for the state that gets to make that decision. No one but the state. And this is really perilous because you know what? First of all, like I said, the state takes a long time to make decisions. Secondly, while they're making the decisions, I cannot even give the child. Odetta, if you are if you're my sister and I pass away, the state cannot even give that child to you to hold on to while I'm making that decision. I need to put that child into protective services. Do you want to put a child who's just gone through a death of a parent? Do you want to put them into that? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is you got to watch out who they're going to pick. In my situation, my youngest brother and I were the closest in the world, but I couldn't have him. And I knew I couldn't because he was the youngest in the family and he was just getting out of college when our kids were minors. My next older sister, she would have been probably the next pick, and probably the state would have looked at her because she's a female. I hate to say it, but state look at female before they look at male when they're making decisions. But she's a homeschooling teacher, homeschooling mom. I don't have a problem with that, but the state does. And it's going to be less likely to have that go to her. Now, the state's still making decisions. They look at my next brother. He's an easy one to pick because he's an alcoholic at the time. Can't pick him. My oldest brother, financially secure, married, 2 children, has a house, doing financially great. He's going, my kids are going there. No questions asked. And the sad thing about it is I love my brother, but I don't want him parenting my children because I thought he was a terrible parent. And I don't want him to be the one that's the influence. And if I didn't make the decision on my own ahead of time, the state makes that choice for me. And all they're looking at is money. So the next one we look at, who makes medical, financial decisions if you can? Now, I can tell you a collection of different things, some of which happened to me. I was in a quasi-coma for 6 to 8 hours when I had a massive seizure. I have epilepsy and it's no big deal. My wife had to make decisions on my behalf. Fortunately, I was okay. But you know who else had to make decisions? Every family member who had someone during COVID who was passing away. This was especially at the beginning. Every time you heard of something about the fact that somebody was taken off a life support or somebody was have to be determined, do we give this person medication or do we give that person the medication? The decisions were being made by family members or they were being made by the state. And my feeling is, you know what, do I want to put that decision on my family member? Do I want to say, hey, look, you know what, this person is not recovering. We have to let them go. Do I want to put that guilt onto that person, especially if what happens if they come up with a cure next month? And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, if I had only waited 1 more month. But if I put this in paper and writing ahead of time, then we don't have to worry about this. The next one is not quite so grave, and yet I still talk about death because I hate to tell you, it's part of your business. It's part of what we talk about in your business is death as well as life. I had a 99-year-old, actually, I didn't have a 99-year-old neighbor. I met my next door neighbor, I met when she was 59 and I was 9. When she died in her home, she was 99. So I'll give you an idea how long I knew her. 40 years straight. For the last 3 decades or 2.5 decades, I had moved away, and yet I would go up to the Bay Area all the time in Northern California, and I would visit her every time and just knock on her door. I didn't even call her to tell her I was going over because she was part deaf, and so it was hard to talk to her on the phone. I just opened the door, and she had this big smile, and we'd sit down and have tea. I will tell you the thing that she talked about every single time was, you know what, as long as I can die in my own home, I'll be happy. That was all that she said that in her 70s and her 80s and her 90s. And she was able to, but only because she had a trust in place. If she didn't have the trust, she couldn't take care of herself physically at the end. She couldn't take it because she couldn't speak. She was clear as a day, and you could see it in their eyes. You could see right into her, and you could talk to her through her eyes. But the fact be told, she could not have cared for herself unless there was estate plans put in place. She doesn't get to make that decision. Again, it has to happen first, not after. And then finally, you all talk about business accounts. You talk about key man insurance. With key man insurance, you have a thing where if I pass away, then a death benefit goes to my business partner. If my business partner passes away, then the death benefit comes to me. In a scenario like that, again, you need estate planning, but now in the form of a trust that we can lock up that policy so I can't make any changes and you can't make any changes. and it has to be put together. So all of these things are different ways to have conversations and discussions. You don't need to know the details though, because when that person turns back around and Vern, when they say, yes, you know what, I am interested. What should I do? What is a trust? How does it work? I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to say, look, you know what? I specialize in working in life insurance, but I also have a partnership with an estate planning network. They have got attorneys all the way across the country. So it doesn't matter where you are. We're going to have somebody that's going to be able to help you. The second thing is that they have plans that are really simple and they have plans that are really complex, and it doesn't matter what you've got. So if you've got someone who is just starting out their lives and they just purchased their first house, and by the way, if you purchase a house, you should have an estate plan in place. You should have a trust put in place, because you can put your trust and you can put your home inside your trust. So you've got this, you've got ones that are going to be really simple. But you know, I know there's a lot of stuff in the news today about Donald Trump, and I don't care one way or the other, except that I feel so bad for the people that had the traffic problems, let's face it, because they shut down the roads down in New York. But I will tell you something. I also heard something. He said he's got 400 corporations. That's a big estate planning issue. I promise you, he has got something, and our team would be able to handle that with him. So those are the two things, basic to complex. We can get on a call right now, have a live on-demand meeting, and meet with an attorney right now while we're talking, because I'm having to sit, Brian and I are sitting down, we're hanging out together, and we're at the kitchen table. Let's just jump online, see if we can get an attorney online. If we don't have time, or if they don't have time because they've got a limited time range, and frankly, you guys are just wiping them out with referrals recently, which is just, I'm happy as a clam. I came on board in December. We were coming in with about 450 referrals per month. And we are now, and I'm not taking credit for it, but I am, we're now at 1,200 referrals. So there's such a volume coming in because of what you all are doing. So we have such a volume that the on-demand one doesn't always work. So I just want to give you that heads up ahead of time. And Brian, you know what, man, if your face doesn't ring a bell, it's just driving me crazy. I don't know if you and I know each other. I can't figure out where, but it's just every time I look over on the screen, maybe I do, maybe I don't. I'm sorry. Just an off note. Maybe we spent some time in jail together. I don't know, something like that. No. Okay, so let's get to the next thing. What next? How do you get a client to us? It's going to be very, very simple. You're going to go to lspndirect.com. You do not go to MyWFG, you're not going to find us. If you find anybody, you might find a company called Legacy Shield, which we have a connection to, but not through you. We have a partnership with them. You have a partnership with them. You're going to touch them with us, and you'll see why in a couple seconds. And it causes a little confusion with the data. I'm sorry. And so we're going to go ahead and sort that out. But LSPN Direct is going to be where you're going to start. I'm going to open the page and we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to just go through and browse through this for a couple seconds just to see how simple it is to work with us. There is one link to start with at the top you have to go to start with, which is registration. A really simple process. You got to have two links that you have to pay attention to. And by the way, Odetta knew it, and she got herself registered. She got her first client registered, and she almost didn't get paid. Because there are two links. One is for registration, the other one's for a payment portal. And we had a conversation today. She said, oh my gosh, I missed the second one. If you did, the money just doesn't go out the window, it'll get stuck. And so if you don't sweat that. But register with LSPN. And I need to show you this because it's going to throw you off a little bit. When I click on that, it's going to open up a thing for Legacy Shield. Like I said, we have a lightweight partnership with them. They manage our names and addresses and phone numbers and such like that. But that's the extent of it. You're going to go in and create a profile with them. And that's really the end of it. You need to really pay attention to, and again, we had conversations today. When you're referring a client, that's going to be something I'm going to suggest. Create a little spreadsheet, go to Google Sheets, open up a sheet, and just put a name down or put it on paper and just keep track of the names, because you will want to go back and find out what's going on. But fill out this information. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get done. That gets finished, and then the next one's going to be that payment portal. This one is just as easy. You just go in, put in your name and information. Odetta, because you filled it out earlier, did you need your driver's license or a photograph of it, or was just the number?
Yeah, I just uploaded it because there was a tab for it, so I just put it in anyways.
Okay, so they did ask you for your picture. Just want to let you know. So you'll need a picture of your driver's license. And the other thing, because I am frugal, my wife calls me cheap, I call myself frugal. They're going to ask you if you want to get the money a couple days earlier and attach it to your debit card. Most people skip right past that part that says, we'll do it for you for 1.4% fee. I don't like that. So just don't attach the debit card. Just put it on your bank account because it just makes a little bit more sense that way. Okay. So that way, oh, look, wait. I got to find out who that is. Because the pictures, Delnique is going like this. She's agreeing. She said, don't give away that 1.4%. I totally get it. You and I are not, we're not cheap. We are frugal. Okay. All right. So get on to the next thing. Next thing to talk about is the second section, which is appointments. By the way, once this is done, you're never going to have to worry about it. Also, probably in about a week after you register, you're going to get an invite from me that says, hey, I see you just signed up. I'd love to have you do a training. It is this training, but a slower speed. I won't talk quite as fast. Okay, next thing is appointments. This one's super easy. If you want to meet face-to-face on the fly right away, click on demand. And you're going to go ahead and click on this button. I can't do that because it'll break our Zoom. Watch what'll happen. I'll say, no, you can't do it because we don't want to do this because I'll leave you. But you go ahead and click on that and you're going to go ahead and connect to what's called a Zoom room. It'd be just like Robert sitting there right now and Robert's hanging out and I say, hey, Robert, I need to meet up with an attorney. He's going to then transfer us into a different room together. So he's our kind of our station master. So that's what's going to happen is that you're going to have that connection. But we are so busy right now. I've been told that it's really tough to get a live connection. But I try it anyway. Then the next one is go into option 2, schedule an appointment. It's name, address, or not even name and address, just first name, last name, email, put a couple things in. Tell me when the client's available. Okay. And when the client is available is not necessarily the appointment. So if they're available on Tuesday, as a matter of fact, today is Tuesday, so let's put it on Wednesday. If you see, I need to have 3 days. So if you put it on Wednesday, it's going to be a week from Wednesday. Just so you know, it takes about 3 days for us to be able to log in. If it misses that window, it's going to go a week out. What I've told some people is just to count 3 days out and then just schedule it that way. So if today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I would say, hey, guess what? You need to be available on Friday. And what time's a good time? It's just a better way to control your client and to get things moving faster. I do a lot of Zoom meetings. I find out if you sign up for a Zoom today and you have to wait a full week for it, most of the time, people no show. So try to get them in short. Okay. So if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If it's Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay. Just keep that in mind. It works out now. Okay, get that all done, fill it out, finish, and you're done. We're going to reach out to the client. The other thing I've told people is that if you go into the additional information and over here, you just say, please include me in the invitation. And that way you get to go to the consultation. You get to watch what goes on in those consultations. It's very educational, especially the first few times, so you know what our process is. This is a no charge, no obligations process. It takes 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the details about estate planning, about living trust. We're also going to find out a little bit about you. Brandy, I want to know whether or not you've got lots of money, or if you have lots of kids. Do you have a special needs child? Do you have, corporations? And in that conversation, that's going to determine what we're going to move forward with. And so that's going to be that first thing. That's basically what we do for our needs analysis. So that's that. That takes care of this. Last thing is going to talk about a couple things on this resource page. About 70 to 80% of our clients, they go with what's called the assisted trust plan flyer. This is a $997 package, and it packages everything. If you remember, I told you want to make sure you stay out of probate. A trust will do that for you. Part of having a trust is knowing what goes in there. Most of the things like homes and everything else we include already. But if something happens to me, what about my car? It automatically goes into that. Cash goes into that. Whatever I have as far as assets, they all go there. And then the trust takes care of things instead of the will. The financial power of attorney, the healthcare documents, those are the things where I talked about as far as not being able to make decisions. Or if you get into if you get an accident of some sort, you've got that. We've got a notary that's paid for in the process of that $997, and you also have funding assistance. Now, funding assistance doesn't mean I'm going to help you with your money. It just means I'm going to take your property and we're going to help you get that put inside your trust form. That total is $997. That's by itself if you write a check today. If you want to, that option 2 is not really a $50 a month thing. So we're going to change tabs real quick. And we're going to look at this one. We're down to 6 minutes, so we got to watch out. Legacy for Life. Legacy for Life is a bundled package. So you get the assisted trust plan. You also get a review every single year. You've got access to a legal advice if you need to that's outside of estate planning. You've got a video. You've got a collection of other services that are there. That goes for $50 per month for 2 years. So the client pays a total of $1,200, and of the $1,200, that takes care of everything. If you want to continue on using the other services after, that's totally fine too. We're going to bring it down from 50. I think it goes down to 35. Okay, I'm almost out of breath, but we're almost out of presentation too. So let me get to the last one. Okay, that's going to be, you've got the videos. Videos are great. Take a look at them. You got flyers on the sides. These are great. Take a look at them. But this is the thing I'm going to try to leave you all with. Okay, the schedule and the workshop. We have 37 people online right now. If you have 37 people, I want each of you to commit to bringing 2 people, 2 clients, not agents. I want you all to commit to 2 clients or potential clients to bring them to the table so you can have us bring an attorney to the table and let us talk to all of them at one time. Let us have a conversation about basic estate planning. If each of you bring 2 people, you've got 70 people that are going to see this. You know, you guys are all part of Jonathan Moran's program. I've seen his events. He brings big groups together. It's not just because he brings big groups together. It's just because it's the most efficient way to capture clients. If you can put 70 people in a room and I have my attorney there, they're going to have probably about 60% of those people are going to sign up. So of 70% of 70 people, if 60 sign up, you got about 42, 43 people sign up. Our compensation is a minimum of 200, but can go up as high as 400. So you got 40 people at $200 per, that's $8,000. If you've got it at $400, it's $16,000 in a single weekend. That's just revenue. Odetta, my attorney, sits down, has a conversation. They talk about an estate plan. In the process of having that conversation, they say, you don't have life insurance. You need to talk to Odetta and get that policy. So our attorney will send the client back to you and provide you the services. And basically, you're not going to have to sell anything because, frankly, who doesn't do what an attorney tells you to do? Well, actually, I guess Donald Trump doesn't, right? We just kind of watched some of that stuff on the news today. But that, again, doesn't matter. We won't go into that. Robert enjoyed that joke. Thank you very much. Apparently upset some other people. So there you all go. Okay, I know that it was fast, and I know that I had a ton of things, and we have 2 things that popped up on chat. I will tell you that, let's see, life insurance is money to fund the plan. Oh, thank you, Vern. I appreciate that. Yep, been there. Family fought for over a year. John, I am sorry for the loss, but I also will tell you, every single time I do this, I have people that put in, at least one person has got the courage to go ahead and admit that. I'll tell you, I went through it. I've seen other people do it. Right after I left the last company, Debt America, the last person I talked to had done it. She had 6 people in the family. There's a sister and a brother that got along. Everybody else went into a war mode because mom gave money to the son to buy a house, and he was paying it back on a mortgage basis on 20 years. She passed away, and everybody said, I want my money now. And you can't pay back a mortgage in minutes. And he couldn't do that. And so everybody went into this war mode. And I talked to her not too long back, and from December till now, and they're still hating on each other. It's terrible stuff. I got one last message comes up. Let's see if it's a question. What about family farm estates? I don't know. I have no idea, John. I wish I did. And I'll tell you what, I don't need to know, because all I have to do is tell you the same thing that you should tell your client. You know what? I'm not sure, but let me get you onto a 30-minute consultation. They're not going to charge you for anything. And while you're having that consultation, you can ask that question. And you don't have to pay, so you don't have to worry about calling an attorney to do it. But you all have a great opportunity. I have 2 minutes. If anybody has any kind of questions or any kind of comments or anything that I can follow up with, if I go past that 2-minute window, you're going to see, well, you won't, it'll come right through the virtual window, will be my wife. She's going to grab me by the head and drag me out of this room. So any questions, anything else that how about a revocable trust? Ken Williams, that is in a revocable. Get the consultation, John. Thank you, Vanna. You know what? Revocable trust, absolutely. And you know what, Thomas, totally think, man, jump in on the thing and join them. If you don't mind, have the conversation together. Refer yourself. To answer your question with regard to revocable, how about revocable versus irrevocable? Ken, you know, if I asked you the difference between, you know, which is better, and Odetta, we talked about this, I think, what's better, a Mercedes-Benz or a 16-wheel big rig truck? What are you doing with it? If you're taking a cruise across the country and you have to carry 18,000 pounds worth of stuff, I don't think you're going to fit it in the trunk if you got the Mercedes. Okay, there's the knock. So I got to go put my shoes on. Thank you so much for your guidance, Kate. I appreciate it. Are you in the state of New York? We are in all states. We are also working on Puerto Rico, and I believe we may be in Mexico. So there you go. We have people that do look. The thing I can give you is set up a worksheet with the team, whoever the leader is in this show. I want to have you all find a commitment, get that thing where you're going to all say, okay, we're all going to bring 2 people at least. Heck, if you bring 10 each, you got what, 370 people online? You all are going to make a ton of money really fast. And it's really simple. And you don't have to do the work. We will for you. And you make me a superstar too. Okay. Odetta, get back in touch with me if you want. We can do a follow-up that doesn't have to talk so fast. And I want to thank you all so terribly much for all of your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charles. I'll definitely be following up with you.